My top five favorite comic book movies. I've been thinking all week that it's like asking me to pick my favorite child. Like I have so many, like I have all these children out there, and I have to leave the rest of them out in the cold. But this one is like 1,000% guaranteed a spot, and it is The Dark Knight from 2008. This movie is like the movie that really made me love superheroes because, like you said, I grew up watching comic book movies. I was I was always oh, I was grew up watching all kinds of movies, but I had all kinds of like Batman action figures, Spider-Man action figures, and this movie specifically and the game Batman Arkham City really made me fall in love with the character of Batman. It really made me fall in love with more serious movies, more and comic book movies in general too. I think this movie really changed the way superhero movies are looked at and made. I mean, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies are absolutely phenomenal and they're, artistically made and they're great movies. But I think The Dark Knight has really like changed the landscape and Christopher Nolan, the director, really changed the game for comic book movies
Yeah,
from
it
there moving
seemed to make
forward.
it more serious, and like this is an adult story too, you
Yeah,
know.
before we took the turn for like the dark Superman genre and all that, I think this was the movie that made superhero movies darker before it was all Brightburn and The Boys and all this stuff. This really like set the stage for those movies to actually have a platform.
Yeah. I knew that one was going to be on your list. Batman seems
It,
to really
yeah.
like shape your whole like childhood and like how you grew up as a person.
It might be my favorite movie of all time. And like the character of Batman definitely has shaped my childhood. Like the way that I think in very moral terms, and I think that's probably in part because Batman is so like right and wrong, and it's
Mm.
like I think in those terms because I like you grow
You
up
are
like
pretty black and
yeah,
white.
you want to be your hero. Like you
Yeah.
want to be like this person that you think is so cool. But I want to touch on too, since we're doing movies based on comics, um, people who created these characters. So Batman, created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, one of the first superheroes ever. He debuted in Detective Comics. These people who created him deserve a lot of credit for all the media that we have now. So many great movies and comics, video games and stories that we all get to enjoy. So I think it's important to bring them up. And then Batman: The Long Halloween and Batman Year One. So Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, and Year
Yep.
One by Mazzucchelli and Frank Miller. Those stories definitely heavily influenced The Dark Knight, which you can see it in there. I mean, The Long Halloween. Have you read that one?
I have actually. I'm
It's
pretty sure
yeah.
read it on the plane.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, because yeah. So that movie or that comic kind of goes over Harvey Dent's evolution into Two-Face
Mm-hmm.
and has a lot of mob ties in with the story, and that is obviously a huge part of The Dark Knight. We get Aaron Eckhart with an awesome, awesome performance as Two-Face, one of Batman's greatest villains, and they totally did him justice. I mean, and you can see that influence and the still early years of Batman. This is considered kind of year two of Batman in the Dark Knight. So you see the influence of year one in some of the scenes, like the scene where he calls. Oh no, when he calls the bats is in Batman Begins, but definitely when he picks the Joker card up at the end of the movie, at the end of Batman Begins,
Begins.
tilting us into the story of Batman the Dark Knight. There's just a lot of cool
Yeah,
references.
that was in the Long Halloween. Is that what you're talking about?
That is in Batman Year One by Frank
That's right.
Miller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The Batman Long Halloween, that's the one that had a ton of his villains show up in that one, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a ton of his villains, but it really doesn't do a lot of doesn't do justice to all of them. I
Yeah,
mean,
they all kind of just kind of peek in.
yeah, I'm not the hugest fan of the Long Halloween, to be honest. And I don't like the portrayal of the Riddler in it. I feel like he comes off not great, not
Yeah.
interesting at all. But going back to the movie, back to The Dark Knight. I love this movie so much. I love Christian Bale. He is amazing as Bruce Wayne and Batman. This movie did so much for the genre, like I talked about. It brought so many serious actors into the world of superheroes, which, I mean, not the first time it's been done, but is just so many of heavyweights. Like Morgan Freeman is in this movie, Michael Caine is in this movie, and obviously his relationship with Chris Nolan has him in all of his movies, but has a very like moving and emotional performance in this movie as Alfred. Like
Hmm.
Alfred wasn't always this integral figure. They've really developed him through the comics and the movies from more than just a butler. And this movie really, really highlights, along with the whole trilogy, the emotional relationship
Yeah,
between.
and you really see that emotional relationship in The Dark Knight Rises when he's
I
talking.
cry when
Yeah,
he
when he's
leaves.
talking and he leaves him and he's all by himself. Yeah, I
It's
just rewatched that not that long ago.
such a like big influence that these movies have because I remember being in middle school and watching The Dark Knight Rises in theaters. I was in North Carolina visiting family, and we went to go see it. Um, and I was that was like one of the most excited I've ever been in my life because The Dark Knight being like possibly my favorite movie of all time, going to see the sequel to that. And there's just like so many good memories with all these movies. Like I
Yeah.
can't wait to talk about all of them and hear what yours are. But
Did you mention at all Christopher Nolan yet?
yes, I mentioned that he was the director.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause
But I don't
that's
think
my
I
guy.
don't think you
That's my
talked about him enough yet, because
not for how much I love him. I
yeah,
haven't talked about him
you
enough.
like just kind of brushed past
He
him.
doesn't know how to make a bad movie. I mean, he knows how to make a movie that's definitely too confusing, but it's still not a bad movie.
Right.
Um, I'm looking at you, Tenet. Tenet. You have to watch that movie. Is something else.
It's on the list.
But I mean, there's like a you can't go over this movie without talking about Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
Heath Ledger, like obviously, I think the most iconic live action Joker. Him and Mark Hamill doing the voice are just like chef's kiss. Incredible, incredible Joker portrayals, and Heath Ledger is, like I said, hands down my favorite live action portrayal of the Joker, and
I agree.
he kills it in this movie. The writing is so good for his character. I
I
mean,
feel like even when another actor plays the Joker and it's good, it's still not good because he set the bar so high that it's like
yeah,
you can't touch it anymore, you know?
it's not even their fault.
Right.
It's not even that other actor's fault. It's I mean, everyone really is a big fan of Joaquin. I think
Hmm.
Joaquin Phoenix does a very good performance. But the time this movie came out, I was 9 years old. So Heath Ledger's going to be my Joker. That's just kind of the
Yeah.
way things work out,
Yeah. I
time frame wise. How old were you when in 2008?
think I was 2 years older, so
Yeah.
11 or so. But I didn't watch it until it was out on like TV. I saw it the first time I saw it was like on TV on like cable. So like there was commercials and stuff. So like I don't even remember the first time that I watched it like all the way through, to be honest. Um, and I remember like as a kid or whatever, a teenager, as I'm watching this, I'm like, this is a good movie. But I don't think I realized at that time how good of a movie it was, because like I said, it was on TV, so I probably wasn't paying fully attention to it. And as a teenager or a young kid, like you're not fully grasping every aspect of the dialogue and what's going on and stuff. So I didn't have that like connection to my childhood as you do to this movie. But now, like watching it, I'm like, oh, this is a fantastic movie. Like definitely one of the best. However, I did not include this one in my top five.
I was curious, but hey, a little bit of differentiation, more for the.
I have it right here, and I have all the stuff for it and whatnot, because it's like one of those that could have easily been in the top five based on my mood for that day.
Well, it's a movie that has to be talked about in the
Yeah,
top
for
five.
sure.
In my opinion, I was gonna start off by saying anybody who doesn't have this in their top five is wrong. Like I was gonna start off by saying, listen, top five lists are subjective.
I
I'm not
I knew you were
yeah,
gonna say that.
I'm not saying that these movies are objectively the best five comic book movies. I know it's subjective to me, but at the same time as that, not having The Dark Knight is still wrong, 100% wrong. Like your opinion's valid, but it's wrong.
It's okay. I was already prepared for this.
You knew it.
And like I said, it's kind of like just at the time of me making the list, of like
Yeah.
what's really in that top five. Because I think an easier task would have been a top 10, you know?
Yeah.
But since it's a
More
top
room.
five, I was really trying to think of more so what do I have a connection
They
to?
should be ties to you. Like, yeah, because we want to feel connected when we're talking
Yeah.
like this. Talking about this movie means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Like someone's opinion of this movie means a lot to me. If you straight up don't like this movie, which I've never met someone who said that,
It's a fantastic movie. Don't get
confu-
it's definitely on my like top 10 all-time favorite movies,
Yeah.
which may not make sense if it's not on my top 5 comic book movies. But again, it's opinion based, right?
Yeah.
That's the fun of it. This has a IMDb rating 9 out of 10.
Lower than it deserves, which is
it's
a really high
really high.
score.
It's on the top 100 movies list for the IMDb. It had a budget of 185 million dollars.
It grossed $1 billion.
Made a billion.
Well-deserved billion. Honestly, should have been 2 billion. I think when I looked at it, it was 1 billion and 6 million. So it's on the low end of a billion, but movie crossing $1 billion is a
Yeah,
huge
it's
deal.
huge.
Huge, yeah.
And I wonder like if the same movie, right? Nothing's different about it, but it came out now. If it how it would do different with like social media and stuff. Because there's a lot more marketing and stuff that you see regularly. I wonder if it would have made more or less.
That's hard to say because this movie set the stage for the movies, like the R-rated movies that I know it's not
Sure,
R-rated,
sure.
it's PG-13, but this movie set the stage for the darker, serious movies that make good money now.
Yeah.
Like if this, you can say if this movie
Like if
never,
this one didn't come out,
yeah,
the MCU and the DCU and all
would
that
there
stuff,
be like a
it wouldn't have
Logan?
worked.
Like would there be
Yeah,
like a serious dark Logan?
yeah,
You know,
it wouldn't have worked.
if this movie came out before movies like Watchmen, would Watchmen have been more successful? Like stuff because this movie bridged the gap like between comic book movies being action movies and comic book movies being films, you know? Like Heath Ledger was like posthumously awarded an Oscar for his performance in this movie.
Yeah.
An Oscar for comic book movies don't happen.
Yeah.
And like he did that. Like it's impressive.